Have you ever wondered what the most painful thing in the world is? What is the most painful feeling? The most painful thing that you can watch someone else go through. Sometimes it's not just yourself. Welcome to the Sarah Hall Show. It's my show where I talk about things that are important to me, things that I believe God wants me to share with other people. And if it blesses you, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with some other people. It would definitely help me out, as well as my company where I make Christian media for families, people out there. We'll talk more about that later. But in this episode, I want to talk about the actual pain of settling for less. Settling for anything less that is God's best for your life will create the pain of regret that you will have to live with for the rest of your life. So there's the pain of disappointment and hurt and a lot of other things that you can feel right now, but the pain of regret is something that lasts much longer. And so I know that if you're a parent out there, and as most parents do, you have dreams, you have hopes, you have wishes for your children to be successful in life. You have friends, you have family that you want to be successful. You want them to go through life and accomplish things without having to deal with that pain of regret and having lost time that they will never be able to make up. There are so many things that we deal with on a regular basis that can be so painful. And to watch somebody else go through that is extremely hard, not to mention going through it for yourself. So in this episode, I wanted to talk about ways to avoid going through that. And I believe the answer is in learning the power of no. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about here on this episode. And thanks for joining me. Let's get right into it. All right. So before we get into this whole idea of what I call the most painful thing in the world, which I believe is it happens from settling for less than what you could have, than what God planned for you, which that equals then this thing called regret that we have to live with. But before we get into that, I want to just take a minute to update you guys on this channel, on myself. If you've never been here, welcome. Thanks for joining me. So my name is Sarah Hall. I am the owner and founder of My Sunshine Media, a Christian media company where I support people and family by sharing different kinds of media with them that leads back to Jesus. That is the primary goal. That is my biggest dream and hope, is that at the end of the day, it makes everybody learn about Jesus, want to grow closer to him, and just lead people to the gospel. And so that's kind of my mission. And this year, 2025, is everybody's in that new year phase where they're setting goals, they have these lists, they have ideas, things they hope that will happen at the end of this new year. And on that note, because we're in a new year, I was reading the other day in Psalms, in the first chapter of Psalms, because my grandparents taught me growing up, that a great way to do devotion is if you use Psalm and Proverbs in the Bible. It has 30 plus chapters in both of those books. And so you can just pick the day, okay, it's December 1st or it's January 1st, and go to the first chapter. So I was reading in Psalms 1, and I had no idea in that chapter how, we've talked a lot about in the Christian community, we've heard that verse, planted by the streams of living water, planted by the tree of living water, all that stuff about flourishing, growing. That's kind of a thing that if you grew up in church, you've probably heard it before. It sounds really cool, and it sounds like something we would all want. But then there's a part in that chapter, there's several verses where we don't talk as much about what it takes to flourish, to thrive, to be somebody that is successful and prosperous, whether it be in life, in business, creating art. And so again, that's kind of what I want to talk about. Before we get there, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So if you're new here, as I already said, my name is Sarah, and I was fortunate enough to grow up in a Christian household where I was introduced to Jesus and to church at a young age. I've gotten older, as most people do. We kind of try to veer off and we try to do our own thing for a while and see how that turns out. And we push aside things that we are skilled at, we are called to do, things that we should be doing with our life, or at least should be a part of our life. And we kind of just push those things to the side, put it on the back burner, and, we just do our own thing. We think that it's going to be fine. And the reality is, you can do that if you want, but obviously it will have consequences. there will be things that you miss out on in life and in relationship with Jesus. And so this year, I have just seen so many people on social media, in the church community, even people that are artists that are now coming out saying that they are hardcore believers in Jesus, and they're talking about these things for the first time ever openly, regardless of the consequences. And so I just felt like this is the year that I was meant to, hold on a second, fix my mic. So I just felt like this was the year for me to finally go all out and really dive into some topics that I have strong opinions about because of revelations and things I believe God has told me about certain things, whether it's like, us sitting down. Some of these episodes are going to be just like a cool little Bible study, like a chat between friends, things that I've shared and I believe I'm supposed to share with you, things I'm learning in the Bible. But a lot of it also is going to be about business and creating art and creativity and things that I enjoy, I constantly learn about, and things that many people say I'm gifted in. So for those of you who don't know, I also host a podcast called The Purpose Millennial Podcast. And recently I've had several guests on where we talk a lot about doing life and business differently, being entrepreneurs, multi-passionate, being extremely creative, creating art, all these different things that I want to include in this channel. And so, yeah, that's kind of part of my vision for this year is I'm going to be talking about those things from my perspective, as well as having on some other guests on this channel. And that will be separate from my podcast because my podcast is, for the most part right now, for artists and entrepreneurs. And some of them will be Christians, some of them won't be. But I believe that we can learn valuable lessons from all different people in all different industries. And so my podcast is kind of a separate thing from this channel and these episodes. But again, I hope you go check out both. You can subscribe here. I would recommend checking out my website, which I will link down below for my media company, getting on the email list, and that will help you keep updated with everything that I'm doing, everything that my company is putting out, any partnerships we're doing. I am hoping the goal is to continue to film this coming year. I have released a feature film about a year ago, released my first feature film. So I am looking to now start filming my next project, hopefully this year. So be on the lookout for that. I'm super excited. I truly believe that I have found what I might call a New Year formula for success. Now, obviously the Bible has success formulas all through it, from business, marriage, life, everything is in there. But this is specifically something that I think could be really helpful for parents. Something we really don't talk enough about is how do we help our children learn to make good decisions? How do we help them learn to make the best decisions in life? And how do we teach them that every choice has consequences, whether it's good or bad? So this is a question that I'm going to try to answer that I think I'll give you some tips on that will help you in this video. So the first thing is, first let's read in Psalms 1. Let's just read a couple. I want to read a couple of different translations. Okay, so Psalms 1 in the New Living Translation says, hold on, let me get my paper here. So in the New Living Translation, it says, "Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with the mockers. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do." I don't know any decent parent who doesn't want their child to prosper, to grow, to be successful in life, in every area of life. But in order to do that, we will have to teach our children, we will have to learn ourselves to say no. Psalms 1 says, it says, "Don't sit, don't stand, don't follow on the path of the ungodly, the wicked, the people that are scoffing and ridiculing." There is a negative environment that your kids want to go into. You need to be the one that says no. That's not something we do. It could be something simple like going over to a sleepover at a friend's house and you don't really know the family, you don't know the parents, and you think that in the environment they are going to be in, there are going to be negative things they're exposed to. So instead of them being influenced by the wrong crowd, why not them have the chance to influence others? Bring people over to your house. Create situations where you have the control, where we say, hey, we don't associate with that kind of stuff, but you guys can come over here and let's show you what it looks like. Show other people what it looks like to live and be prosperous by the streams of living water, right? And so the power of no is something that we talk a lot about in business, in entrepreneurship, and being, it's for the reason of time management and goal setting and accomplishing things most of the time. But it can be about just making time for Jesus, just making time to get closer to the Father, to have influence rather than be influenced. Go to James chapter 1. So I was just reading this recently. I want to tell you guys what this says. James 1 verse 2 in the NLT. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." Saying no is sometimes a really simple thing that we need to incorporate into everyday life. Every single day, when you and I wake up, we will be met with new opportunities to give up. We will be met with opportunities to settle for less than what we could be, what we are called to do, and what we were made for. If you settle for less, you have no choice but to live with the lifelong pain of regret after that. Whether you regret that decision now, 10 years from now, or 50 years from now, eventually it will catch up to you. And it's not just you that will live with that pain. Your children, your grandchildren, people that you have never met and you may never meet in this lifetime will pay the price for you settling for less. And that is truly the pain of regret and settling. So you might say, well, how do I know this? Because the Bible talks about it. That's the entire idea of generational blessings and curses, where whatever you do, it's not just what you do that you pass on to the next generation. It is also what you don't do. And my grandfather was a pastor. My grandparents were in ministry together, serving their communities, serving churches for about 50 years together, over 50 years. And, my grandfather really had an anointing and a calling on his life to go further and do more than what he did as a pastor. He was gifted, extremely gifted as a writer, as a communicator. And, unfortunately, we didn't have YouTube back then. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have the technology that we have today to share the information, to share, what he would have shared with people if he had that chance. But there were other things that he could have done, and he chose not to do them. And of course, that's between him and God, and maybe he felt called to stay where he was, and for different reasons that don't make sense. And that's fine. That's one thing. But I don't believe that was the case. I believe that he settled for less. And whether he knows it or not, whether he ever really knew this while he was alive, God has shown me visions and things that could have been if he had been the first one to not settle and to be the leader and say, hey, we're going to go even further than what we've done right now. And honestly, generations down the line, including myself, my siblings, my cousins, aunts, uncles, there are people that we are now paying the price for his decisions. And that's why I'm very aware that the choices that I make right now will affect my family, friends, business partners. It will affect future opportunities. If I settle for less than what I'm called to do, if you settle for less than what you were called to do on this earth right now, it is not just you that will pay the price. So when you meet obstacles, you have to learn how to test and try your faith every day by saying no to the wrong things, yes to the right things, so that endurance can have its perfect work, so that endurance can make you perfect and complete. And yes, that's hard. And yes, it requires faith, but we don't have to overcomplicate it. It's something as simple as God tells you to pray for someone. You can choose to ignore that or not do anything with it. God tells you to bless someone financially. Some people that they're going on a trip, you don't feel like it's the right environment for you, it's not the right timing, and you decide to bail and say, no, I'm not going with you guys. Sorry, this trip is not for me. I don't know what the circumstances are in your life. I don't know if it's saying yes to a new job or turning down a new job. I don't know if it's going back to school. I don't know what it is for you. I just know that if you will endure doing the right things, even when they don't make sense, if you will continue to put your faith out there and make that decision every day, you will reap the benefits. You will prosper. You will plant yourself on that riverbank by the streams of living water. You will be that tree of life that is flourishing, that is growing, because you are rooted and planted in the right area. You are rooted and planted in Christ. Okay, so that was kind of the Bible study part of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it taught you something. I hope it encouraged you. But how do we take these bigger concepts and teach them to younger people? How do we teach this to kids? Okay, that's actually an interesting thing that I'm going to share with you, because I did not realize how the character in my kids' book that I just released last month, technically last month, December. We did not make the Christmas deadline. I was really hoping that we would do that, but a few days after December is when we launched it. And the character in this book, I'll show you the book, okay? Now, this is the author copy, so it's not gonna look like this. That line won't be there, but it is now on Amazon. It's available in a paperback, ebook, and it will also be available with an audiobook very, very soon. It's in review right now. But this book it's so crazy because I wrote this book like 5, almost 6 years ago now. And the journey that this little boy goes on, the character in this book goes on, this is a kid's picture book. It is so similar to what you see in Psalms 1. And even in James 1 that we just read about when you meet obstacles, let endurance make you perfect and complete. Endurance, continuing on, making the right decision, saying no so that you can say yes to something else later. That is literally exactly what this boy does. And I'll show you a couple of illustrations just for the heck of it while we're here. Let me find a good one. Okay, that's a pretty cool one. He has to go. He ends up at a tropical place with this guy he meets, a king that's taking him on a journey. There's another one. Oh, this is my favorite. One of the ice captain they meet. This is a cool illustration right there. Pretty cool. So this is my kid's book called The Boy with No Name. And it is a way that you can teach your kids about choices, about the power of choice. Saying yes, saying no, endurance, continuing to move on, have faith, even when you want to give up, when you feel like giving up, when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This book will help kids learn what it looks like, good and bad consequences of saying yes and no, and continuing on and having endurance for a different and bigger goal than what we see right now. So get this copy, go grab yourself a copy on Amazon, available right now. Pay that price so that other people, you, your family, generations down the line can reap the rewards. I really hope that this episode, this video, this channel has encouraged you, has blessed you, and has sparked something new inside of you to continue going, to continue to push forward, not to give up, to wake up again today, tomorrow, the next day. Move forward with the vision, the prize, the goal in mind. Whatever that is for you, whatever you're called and you're made to do, do not give up. Other people's lives and opportunities and your future is on the line. So again, my name's Sarah Hall. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, share if it blessed you, and I'll see you very, very soon in a new episode on my podcast, somewhere on set, on a film set. I will see you soon, and God bless.